Welcome to the You Can Do It Too podcast. Here we talk about how to tackle tasks, finish projects, and fulfill your dreams, one step at a time. Regardless of your situation, you can make it happen. It's about the power of momentum and how real people are living their dreams right now. I'm Michelle Forsyth. Now let's get started. Hello, we're talking with Marie Rachelle today. Marie is a freelance community builder. Starting off as a freelancer in 2014, and she went full-time in 2019. She scaled her social media business to over 100K. Very impressive. Shifting her business in 2020, she is now the coach for Aspiring Freelancers, as well as the founder of Convergence Co-working. Voted most aspirational freelancer by her peers at the Freelance Conference in 2019. She lives up to her title by organizing Freelance Business Week Buffalo and is the president of the Western New York Co-working Alliance. Over the years, Marie has worked with businesses across the US and Canada. She has been featured on the Onest Network on Roku TV, the Hastings Harvest, the Lunch Break Podcast, WNY Entrepreneur Podcast, and Reach for the Stars podcast, as well as in the Buffalo News, Buffalo Rising, WBEN, WKBW, and more. Marie is passionate about building community both online and in person. Welcome, Marie. Thanks for coming today.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks for reading that. That was so nice.
Yes.
It's so nice to hear it all.
Yeah, it is.
It's nice to hear it. I'm like, whoa, I always read it. And I'm like, oh, who's this? Oh, that's me. It's always fun.
It's fun to put together your bio and then actually hear it, because we forget sometimes what we've actually accomplished, right?
That's
and
a big deal. That's right.
A lot.
That's right. I think you're the first one I've ever heard read it back to me. So that was pretty cool.
Really? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So how did you get started? So you went full-time in 2019. So how did you get started with freelancing?
So, I mean, I did start in 2014, just on the side. Like all good things, it kind of fell into my lap. I was working full-time in human resources at the time. Just approached by a friend of a friend who knew I was a good writer. They were in real estate and asked me if I could help them write some real estate descriptions. And I was like, okay, like I can make extra money doing this. Like, I like to write. These houses are gorgeous. There were multi-million-dollar houses in Naples. I was like, all right, I got a free tour of the house. I got to see this beautiful house on the water, take notes and then write about it and get paid. So I was like, all right, like, why not? Any 22-year-old would have been game for that. So I started with that, and that really just took off. I started writing more descriptions, and then that turned into blogs and emails and then social media. So it just kind of rolled from there. And I was building it on the side from, a full-time job for 5 years. And then I did decide to take the leap a couple of years ago. So that was really fun. Yeah, definitely been a ride. I mean, especially now, but it was a ride before the pandemic. So
yeah, and I find it interesting that you did it for 5 years as a side gig.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people who do that, right? Like you can't just jump into being a freelancer or an entrepreneur. Excuse me. So doing it on the side that's a really good idea.
I think it laid a lot of good groundwork for just appreciation and patience to know like how to work, when to work, like who to work with. It definitely taught me a lot with that. And it gave me the opportunity to go from working in HR full-time into exploring marketing positions. And then, I eventually went into full-time marketing roles before taking the leap, because you couldn't just jump right in without knowing if I actually liked marketing that much, or I just thought I did. So
I did. I just leaped. I didn't know if I would like marketing or not. I was an executive assistant and managed a technical administrative team. And my wife was an entrepreneur. She was a marketing automation specialist. And I quit my job and started working with her. So
I love it. Well, hey, I mean, you obviously had someone you could rely on. So that was
I had an excellent teacher.
Yeah, you knew what you were getting into for the most part. I worked full time in HR for a while. And then, I was in New York and then moved back to Florida, came back to New York. And when I did that is when I kind of transitioned into I was working in corporate at the time. And that's when I got a job in marketing, like in corporate. So I could learn the full thing. And as I knew, like I did enjoy it. It was great. It was a wonderful learning experience. And then I kind of just was like, okay, I definitely do like this. Let's do it on my own. So
cool. So what did it look like when you were working corporate? Like how did you balance your side stuff with
so
your
I wasn't
corporate?
nearly as busy as I was now, which is funny because back then I thought I was super busy and I didn't think I could get any more busy. I had a son. I worked full time and, just like family life. And then also like integrating a side hustle, I suppose, within that. Thinking back about it, I mostly worked on my lunch breaks. I mean, I want to say I just brought my laptop to work and, sometimes I got a weird eye at work. Sometimes I didn't, because, when you have a business aside from your real job, depending on where you work and the times, I mean, mind you, this was like 7 years ago. So what we do wasn't as prominent as it is now, I think. But mostly lunch breaks, like before work, lunch breaks after work, which, that can be kind of tedious on relationships. So just finding the time on my own to do that. I've learned a lot since then. And, I am on my own now. So that's like really, honestly, it's such a relief because I literally can work whenever, but thank God, because, I'm doing so much more now than I was then. So, but so full-time job, having a side hustle, having a son, like that kept me really busy. But honestly, I'm like probably 5 times more busy than that now, which is okay because I'm good with it. But I thought I was busy then. I really wasn't.
Yeah. So how do you manage your time now that you're so busy? Like, what does your day look like?
So we kind of talked about this offline, but I actually just started writing down my new, like, it says daily priorities, and I'm going to make a list of like all the things I want to get done in a day because I need to reamp it. I don't kind of need to reamp it. I need to. So I'm writing down, I'm doing what I do with my coaching clients, saying, okay, like, what do you want to get done in a day? Put them in order, and then we need to create a schedule. So I'm starting to do that for myself, just because I've got my hands in a lot of different things, all towards the same mission, but just, it's a lot. So, you're reading my bio, I'm like, wow, I do a lot, but it all points in the same direction. So just trying to be as efficient as possible, with that. So, but then also like sticking to it and being like, okay with rest, I have to schedule in, an hour for lunch. Like I still need to take time off. And, honestly, the first thing I wrote on here was breakfast/tea. That's the first thing that I need to do every day. I could go till 3 p.m. and not eat. So
it's so important to take care of yourself and to do that. And it's so easy when you're working from home. And I don't know if people are struggling with that balance with working for an employer, or if it's just working independently, if we have that struggle. Because I used to work a lot when I worked in corporate, like because a lot of times I worked from home too. It was pre-COVID, obviously it was years ago, but I often worked remotely, and it was kind of tricky sometimes to be, okay, I'm done now. And it's the same with my own business.
Yeah, the only remote work I ever did before working for myself was like if I was sick or something. The companies just within the last decade, they weren't as flexible. So I was always in an office. So the work that I did do for myself was the first type of remote work that I ever was really exposed to. So I'm definitely, I'm a convert. I've converted, and I'm like, I'm never going to an office again. Like, unless it's a co-working space, like I'm not going. So unless you go if you want to go, but I mean, it's a mandated thing. It just, nah.
Yeah. It's not as much fun. It really depends. Like you need, self-discipline to make sure like you actually, work and get started and then stop. Right. So what kind of things do you do to unwind and just relax and decompress after you've been working all day?
Oh, well, sometimes it's not tea. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's definitely peppermint tea today. It's not Friday. If I have my little thermos, like it might be something else, but it's definitely Tuesday. Honestly, I want to say like my most guilty pleasure is probably like binge watching like Netflix or something. Like I just love watching a show. I'm like, okay, I'm like I want to melt my brain, or like TikTok. Like I'll watch TikTok or Reels, whatever you want to call it. I'll just be like, I need to melt my brain. Like I'll look at memes or something. I'm like 20 minutes of this, like, or whatever. I set myself a time frame. I'm like, all right, just like laugh for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I know I should be like reading or something, but no.
I know.
I read all day. All I'm doing is reading texts and emails and messages.
Yes.
Like I want to just watch a show that's maybe like I started watching like The Flight Attendant on HBO, like really interesting. Like I love that stuff. Yeah. So I'll be like, all right, let's just like watch a show and eat lunch. Like that's, my diffuser, but yes, definitely reading. I mean, I love reading. Nowadays, even just like calling your friends to catch up it can be exhausting depending on, your situation. So, if you really want to diffuse and not feel bad about it, like for me, I throw on the TV and just eat.
Yeah.
It's just what I want to do.
And that's a big thing too, right? Giving yourself permission to do that. Like I've been in different coaching situations where the person who was leading it was a little bit, I don't know if it was just me, but it seemed like she was a little bit judgy about binge watching TV. And I'm like, but I need that.
Yeah.
I know, I need that time to relax and stop thinking about like all the things I need to do.
You can't always be on. Like if you're on all the time, you're going to be exhausted. Like I can barely be on when I want to be on sometimes. So
yeah, exactly. So it's finding, I think a big thing is figuring out what works for you. Like, and there's ways also, like, I mean, there's reading and meditation, and if that works for you and that helps you. And I also feel like there's other ways to meditate than just.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like I love reading. I love meditating. Yeah. Like it's great. Like I love to just sit and listen to like weird, pitch sounds and stuff. But sometimes I just want to sit and melt, like I said, melt my brain. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially now, like teaching, my son's 7, so he's got hybrid school, and so I'm like doing all what I'm doing, but I'm helping him, and I'm like, I want to do nothing right now, and I don't want my anxiety to take over. So let's watch something that will totally engage me, that I have no other thing to focus on. Like that's,
And I think a lot of people are dealing with that too, because so many people have their kids at home now and they're not used to that, right? Yeah. Neither the kids aren't used to it and the parents aren't used to it. So it's a challenging situation in figuring out how to deal with that, right?
I mean, yeah,
and keeping your head on straight.
I was like, you have to be quiet. I'm like, we're recording something. Like, you have to be quiet. And he's like, oh my God, okay. But they don't get it. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard for everybody.
Yeah. Well, he's growing up with you doing this though, so it's a different world that the kids are growing up in, right? Even before COVID, but especially now with COVID and with people working at home so much more.
He's okay. He's the one who like knows what it was like before, so he's a little more sad about it. My daughter's like, can I have a call? When am I gonna have calls? I'm like, oh, you can wait, honey, trust me. I was like, maybe when you're 5. She's like, oh, when I go to kindergarten? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like she's excited. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But he's sad. So
yeah. It's very different. So talking about prioritizing things and figuring out what you're gonna do in the day. So how do you pick what is the most important thing for you to be doing?
Well, I know that my client work always comes first. So, food comes first. So let's eat. And then, my client work, anything that like brings in revenue, right? So if I have a client, like my biggest client, like I make sure that I take care of their work first thing, or, at least allocate the time in the day to take care of that, because that's my revenue, that's my money. So, client work basically comes first. Like that's kind of how I look at it. And then of course, like, I guess before client work comes like the school stuff, but that goes hand in hand. But with that, like, it's hard, right? It's like, okay, I have to prioritize my client's work, but then my kid's school is happening. Like that's hard, but trying to just balance those two. And then at some point in the day, treating yourself and working on your own business. So that's why creating this priority list, creating like time blocks to get certain things done. Like that's really important for me. So like, for example, I have a retainer, so I work like probably a handful of hours every day throughout the entire day for my client. I just make sure that I get that done, and I track myself. I use Toggle for time tracking, which is amazing. So I use that to track that that task. And then, I'll go through my flagged emails. Like if there's something I have to handle right away, like of course I'll go through that as well. So it's kind of a mixture of things. It's a mixture of, knowing who I have to service each day, my calendar itself, any phone calls that are immediate, and then, like outside factors like my kids' school. So.
Perfect. So, when you have, I imagine most people have days where it's just like, I don't know if I can do it, or like, what's the point? And that, so what do you do when you have times like that?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of those days lately. Pretty sure everyone has. You always have this, it seems like you always have like a list of things like staring at you. But if you get overwhelmed or anything like that, like I have a good friend of mine, we do the same type of work. And we'll call each other and just be like, I don't feel like doing any of this today. And we're like, don't, because if you do it, you're not gonna feel good about it. So in that moment, like if you absolutely have to get something done or you have to have a call, but most of the times because of what we do, we can reschedule. And I've learned to be okay with that. So if I have a day where I'm like, I'm fatigued, like I'm just tired, I don't feel good, like I just want to sleep and drink water, I'll try to reschedule most of my day. I'll just explain, hey, I have to take a personal day. Like we still work for ourselves, so we get to decide that. And then then I guess the next step after clearing your day or like being okay with taking a break is you have to relieve yourself of the guilt. You can't take your day off and then feel guilty about it all day, because it's just going to make you feel guilty and stressed. So it's like, okay, free your day and then forgive yourself for freeing your day. Like be okay, and then do whatever it is that is going to help you feel rejuvenated, whether it's going for a walk or reading a book or just sleeping and watching TV all day. Do whatever it is, but there needs to be an end to it as well. Be like, okay, I'm allowed to do this, today until 4 o'clock, but at 4 o'clock, I'm going to get up and make dinner, and then I'm going to be like a human again. And then I'm going to go to sleep, and then tomorrow will be better. Like sometimes it works, in a perfect world, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have to do it for another day. Or just sometimes you got to suck it up the next day and get some stuff done because you're behind. But to do your best at just giving yourself some grace, like at least for a day. I mean, you can give yourself grace for 8 hours. Like it's not, that's not impossible.
Yeah. And it's everything I find is about making that choice. Like you need to be aware of making that choice versus just letting the day get away from you. Right.
Well, and for people like us, we work so hard for other people, and we defend other people so much, whether it be our clients or our kids or anything like that. Like we forget to defend ourselves. So just putting as much energy into yourself as you do for other people. That took me this long. So like 7-8 years to figure that out. So
well, it's taken me a lot longer.
I'm good at it. But I mean, there's sometimes, like saying no to client work. That took me 3 years. Because before I'd just be like, yeah, give me everything. If I can't do it, I'll figure it out. Now I'm like, I don't know. I'll think about it. And then I'll think about it and decide if I want or don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And firing a client is a big thing too.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a big thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, doing that, deciding like who to work with, letting people go, whether it's whether it's still a good relationship or not, it's stressful. Like working with vendors, that all comes with the territory.
If you could go back and tell yourself a tip or a trick or give yourself some advice, what would you say to yourself?
Do it sooner.
Do it sooner?
Yeah. I waited too long. Starting in 14, I want to say I probably could have gone free or full-time in like 16, like 15 or 16, probably a couple of years in. I was working with another girl, very part-time. She helped me because I was like, I think I'm feeling pretty good about this. Like you and I can work together. God bless her. She's working in real estate now, totally killing it. So, I'm glad that she's still well. But like I wanted to go for it and then I pulled back. Like I kind of chickened out, I guess. And I wish I didn't, because then if I didn't, it would be totally different for me now. But again, there's a reason for everything. So like, there's a reason that I didn't, and I worked where I worked and did what I did, because I gained a lot of really great experiences then. And then when I did decide to go full time, like I was living back home. So like, that's also really cool. So I could see where it would work out both ways. But I definitely would have just been like, do it sooner, because I've learned so much more working for myself and with other clients than I have working at companies or even opening businesses for other people. Even though I did learn a lot, it wasn't like as much of what I would have wanted to learn on my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you learned a lot. Yeah. Trying to figure out how to rephrase that. You learned so much as being an entrepreneur or a freelancer. But I learned a lot being in corporate, some good, some not so good. Right?
Exactly. Like you feel like you learn either way. I just feel like maybe you're a little more either selective, or you get to choose what you're learning when you're doing your own thing.
I was really lucky because my last corporate job my boss was like my mentor. So he really helped me.
I've been blessed with the best bosses ever since my first job in college. I worked for a cleaning company I worked for a cleaning company in the office, the healthcare company, the home healthcare company I worked for in Florida. Boss was amazing. And then when I worked here in Buffalo, my boss was here for 22 years. Like I used to joke with him. I'm like, I was 4 when you started working here. So he knew the whole business. And I mean, he taught me everything he knew. Who's also, great mentor. So I've always had great people to work with, even when I was in a job. But it wasn't even about the boss. It was like about the company, or maybe it was like a franchise where there were guidelines either way, or directors who, whatever. So I learned things within their parameters, which was wonderful. But doing what we do now, it's like, oh, you want to write a book? Okay, we'll learn how to do that. Yeah. Oh, you want to start a co-working association? Yeah, do that. You want to host an event? Okay, you can do that. Like no one's telling you what you can and can't do. So that's what I mean. I think when it comes to like learning and having other experiences.
I think that actually is often what prevents people from moving forward, is because there's so many options and there's so many ways they can do things that it's like, well, what do I do? So you started, I guess it was just kind of natural because you started with the writing, the real estate, and then it just kind of evolved naturally into the marketing, would you say?
Yes, definitely. But I think I know where you were going with that, like with there being an opportunity to do basically whatever you want, right? And having to decide. And I think we may have talked about this before, being mission driven and knowing what you want to do for either the people or a group of people, or what makes you happiest. Be mission driven by like your motive, like what motivates you. Yeah. Not so much of like the job. Like, do you want to write books? Do you want to write copy? Do you want to do social media? Do you want to plan events? Like, don't say like you want to do any of those things. You can, if like, like you love planning events, that's great. But for me, it was, I know that I wanted to help people. There was a reason I was in human resources. I liked recruiting. I liked getting people jobs. But then, I also liked selling because I was getting people the products that they wanted. And then just kind of fell into doing social and like helping small businesses grow their businesses in the ways that I could the most, which was writing and like marketing. And then now it's talking about how I work with them and helping others build like their freelance business. Like I've always had this mission, I guess, to help people with whatever that goal has been. And like I've always connected with people and connected other people. So like being a community builder and being a connector is like it's more of a trait than like a thing that I do, right? It's like, that's just who I've always been. It's changed who I do it for over the years.
So what does being a community builder, like, what does that mean? What does it look like?
And so I guess there's a few ways you can look at it. For me, it's building the freelance community where I live. So freelancing is, obviously huge in other places across, the United States and Canada. And like co-working is huge, but I live in Buffalo, New York, and we're a little more of a traditional city. But we're getting there. We got like a handful of co-working spaces now. Freelancing is becoming more prominent because of the times, and I would like to say because of me. Bringing Freelance Business Week into the city, like getting people to really open their eyes, like how independent workers and small businesses, really drive the economy, and like pushing that, within other municipalities, like with the city and where I live. That started to make a change. So being a community builder in that sense, where you're actually building or finding other people who maybe are freelancers, want to be freelancers, like find them and then connect them with the other people in the community to be like, oh, wow, well, they do exist. Let's see how we can work together. Like there's that community building, but then there's also like a personal community, right? So opening a co-working space, like I want to build, I want to build a virtual community before our doors are open. So finding people that my space would serve, or, as a freelancer, you want to find people like your tribe, your humans, whatever you want to call it, your referral partners, your network, like that's a community too. So there's like micro communities, and then there's like physical actual communities that are like, cities. But yeah, so I think there's a couple different kinds. And then you can kind of fit in where you want. Like not everyone's super like extroverted like me. If you're introverted, but you still want a community, find your community online, find a few people you feel comfortable with chatting with, do a Zoom call with, you can vent about whatever, whether they're your friends or just like colleagues who do similar things to you. We're both members of Freelancing Females. So finding a community like that, like you can still build your own little group of people within that. So. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I really like the whole creating your own community. I've always been kind of, I'm different than most, and I don't fit in. So in the last couple of years, I'm like, I'm just going to create my own community because I don't necessarily fit in this mold or that mold. So creating my own community is a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many kinds of community out there nowadays. We've
Absolutely.
got, based on where you're from or where you're going or what you do for work or, how you identify. It's all there's so many. So it's really, but we have to remember that we're all on the same earth. I think that's the only thing I think that really
all
matters.
These little communities in this giant global community, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give people who are thinking about either starting a side hustle or leading even to having a full-time freelance work or entrepreneurship? Or
I think really just like exploring, right? So I mean, similar to you and I, just getting educated, talk to people who maybe are doing what you want to be doing, right? So if you're looking to build a side hustle, talk to someone who's got a business on the side. I'm sure within friends and family, there's someone, right? So start there. There's groups all over the place now. So, I mean, Facebook has groups for everything. Even, what is it? Like Meetup, I think still exists. Meetup, like Eventbrite, they still have like Eventbrite has like scheduled things, and they might all be virtual now, but it still exists. Just like do your research, on, what type of work there is out there, and reach out to the people who maybe are doing what you want to do or something similar. Or if you can't find someone, find somebody at least close to that world, and I'm sure they'd be happy to connect you with someone else. It's really just about like being curious and asking questions and wanting to learn. I think that that's the first part about getting started, is just absorbing it first. Just like any new job, right? You get a new job, what do? You either train or you just sit there and like watch people interact, and you're like, okay, like I'm getting the feel of this place. Like that's what you do, just get used to it, and then you start moving on your own. Then you like, you get up and go to the break room, and like you go around, you start like working on little projects. But just being curious, but like not being afraid either. Like who cares if you've never done it before, or if no one's ever done it before? You've never done it before, so just like do it.
And that often is a big factor of what holds people back too, is that fear, right? So do you have any particular advice on how to get past that fear of getting started?
I think that's a constant battle for all of us, right? So they have like imposter syndrome, which is a big deal. So just having general fear, being like, oh, well, okay, crap, I'm going to go work for myself. I mean, I think if you can have a savings account, have a savings account. That always helps. But
Yes.
not everyone has the ability to do that. Or, you know, if you've got supportive partners, like that's great too. But just, you do have to eliminate the fear, or at least, you know, work hard to kind of fight it. But I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, like I said, like there's the initial fear that's like, oh crap, I'm going to do this. And then there's the imposter syndrome when you're like, well, my God, I am doing this, but like, am I real? Like, am I actually doing it? Or, you know, so there's a lot of pieces in that. And I think that coming with that is like your community and your people who are like, no, you're doing this, you're doing a great job. Like, and reinforcing like those good things you do. Like when you read, you know, my intro back to me, I'm like, wow, like I have done a lot of those things. And like, I'm proud of those things. But I forget that I've done that. So I have a list of accomplishments that I go back and read when I'm feeling down, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm badass. Never mind. Like I'm good. And we all still have fear, and it doesn't matter if you've been in it one day or 10 years, like you still have a fear of something within your business. So
yeah. And there's other people doing the same thing. And the thing I find is like, it looks all shiny and pretty on the outside. And so that can be intimidating if you're getting started. But the truth is, I've worked with people and I know people, and a lot of times what you see on the front is hiding a big mess. So, so don't be intimidated by that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too, like everybody, you know, everything like looks so good and seems so good. And like, it could be, and that's great.
It could be. Yeah.
The work that goes into that is there's so much that goes into that. It's not necessarily a facade, because it could be true, but there's just a lot that goes into whatever you see that's forward facing. I guess that's about it.
It's like the ducks forward under the water.
Right. There's a lot going on. You know, it could be good, could be bad. But just, that's what I mean. Like, just keep intriguing yourself and like educating yourself on what you want to do. And then like, if you have fears or doubts or anything like that, just like reach out to the people who are supportive of you. I mean, we talk about this all, like we're both coaches. So like we coach people, you know, we need people to coach us. Like we can't just be like, oh yeah, we coach people, so we're good. Like we're perfect. It's like, no, I need to follow my own protocols because I have the same issues. And it's not because I'm not good at what I do. It's just because we're human. We all operate very similarly.
And one thing I've adopted recently is changing that mindset of, oh, I can't do it because they're doing it or they're better than me. Is if they can do it, so can you. Right.
So it was something that Rachel Hollis said, which I know that she can be people are a little controversial about her lately, but I really like her, you know, whatever, life happens. So she said and I said this a little earlier, it's like, you've never done it. Someone else might be doing it, but you've never done it. So no one's going to do it exactly the way you are, which is kind of ironic due to like what, you know, what's going on with her, and I guess I'll keep that off here. But you know, if you're doing something, it's unique, or at least you need to make sure that you make it unique to you. If there's people you still look up to, you can do things similar to them. You know, there's people who coach freelancers. Like I coach aspiring freelancers, but there's a freelancers guild. There's, you know, Julie Cortez, like she's the freelance rock star. Like there's people that do what I do. And I'm sure we think the same way. We just implement it in our own unique way. So it's like, who cares? I mean, look at the real estate agents. Like speaking of, you know, getting started there's hundreds of them, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. You know, they all do business differently. And that's kind of a powerful thing for us, is that doing what we do on our own, we can get really, we can be very unique. We can be very niched down. And I don't know about you, but I've been reading a lot lately about niching down as far as possible, because that's how you're getting like that high quality client work that people are looking for. Like that's, it's a big thing now. So
yes, absolutely. And the thing is too, is that even if there's a million people right beside you, the only, like what you're saying is you're going to do it in your way, and people are going to resonate with you because they're going to be attracted to you. So someone is going to be attracted to the other person, and that's fine. That's totally fine, because that's who they are attracted to, and that's who they want to work with.
What do we want? We want options. We want to know, like, okay, all these people can do what I'm asking, but like, who do I have a good relationship with? Who do I vibe with? Like,
who can I
am I
talk
going to
to?
be able to do, referral business with in the future? And it's no, no knocks on any of the other people.
No,
it's just like, okay, like you're a really good fit. Like we really get along. Like we have a really good vibe. Like we're going to work together. And, maybe if I have a different project where I need a different personality type, like I'm going to reach out to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. And that's part of taking that leap too, is putting yourself out there. And it is scary, but it's definitely worth putting yourself out there. And my own mission is to help women in particular get their voice out and share their voice with the world, right? And whatever that looks like. And so I find it very exciting. I love what you do in teaching people how to freelance and how to be an entrepreneur. I think that we need to talk about the difference between being a freelancer and being an entrepreneur.
You like that one, don't you?
I really like
excited.
This one.
I saw you moving. Yeah, you don't want that to be missed. And like I said, I think that's definitely a book title name in the future. So, I mean, by definition, the Marie Rachelle definition of like freelancing versus being an entrepreneur is that, when you work for yourself, you're creating the work, you're earning profit from that. But when you stop working, like the work stops and the business stops, because that's you and that's what you're doing. And freelancing is great. There's nothing wrong with that. You 100% could build a little, empire within that. But anybody who's working as a freelancer, when they stop, their business stops. Like that's how that is. And then I view entrepreneurship as, building a business, building something that can exist and that can earn a profit without you working necessarily. Like that sounds lazier than it really is, but that's, when you're
it takes a lot of work to get there.
Revenue streams, like all those other fancy words. Freelancing, you do social media consulting. When you do social media, you earn money. As an entrepreneur, you build an agency where, you have an agency that maybe has a software or other people working beneath you as an entrepreneur. You will earn money and gain money off of those clients, whether you're physically doing the labor or not. So I just really feel like freelancing is doing your own thing on your own time, and it starts and stops with you. Entrepreneurship does not start and stop. Like it may start with you, but it won't stop with you. For me, I look at it with the co-working space. Like that's something that I'm building for the future. It will exist after I'm gone. It will exist, if I decide to not be a part of it anymore for whatever reason, it will be there, of starting that. And same thing goes for, Freelance Business Week or the co-working association. Like that will exist after me,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I define like entrepreneurship versus freelancing. Because when I stop working with my client, like that's done,
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I love that. We've talked about it before, and I will always make you talk about it.
I need to. I'm going to hone it down. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it like perfect one of these days.
Because I think there's a big difference, because even when I left my corporate job, and you and I have talked about that, I thought that I was becoming an entrepreneur, but in reality, I became a freelancer.
Right. Oh my gosh. So it's so funny. I was on another call today, and I talked about you because
did you?
I said, I was on this, book coaching call, and, the woman running it, I said, she was a freelancer. She didn't even know it. I was like that. So if people don't know that they're freelancers, like how are we even supposed to know what they are? So that's kind of a part of my like personal mission, is like helping people understand what they are, and then like how they can educate others and how they can help them.
And changing that shift to like, so I've connected to a lot of virtual assistants because that's what I did for so many years. And the thing is that I've noticed is that a lot of VAs, they're VAs and they do their thing and they are freelancers. They think they have a business a lot of times, and sometimes they do because they have other people and that. But I find it inspiring when someone starts out as a VA and they start coaching other VAs, or they teach
how to
do it themselves.
An entrepreneur, because exactly. They're a VA and they create. Honestly, it could be as simple as creating templates. If you create Canva templates, you're an entrepreneur now, because you can sell that, and you can be sleeping. So anything that you can sell while you're sleeping, like you create that, you're an entrepreneur. Like that. Yes, easy. No, so I love that. It's perfect.
I love that. And it's it's such an important thing to differentiate and to explain, because if you know where you're going, then you can follow the steps. So if you want to continue freelancing and you love what you're doing, that's perfect. And just keep going and doing
hand in hand, you would turn into an entrepreneur. If you want to sell books, or, if you want to become an author, then you become an entrepreneur. Like it comes with the territory. But just like being aware of those other streams, like, okay, when you stop working, what's going to keep working for you? Because you are your expertise. So, try to earn yourself a living in your retirement. It's already hard enough for us. So
yeah, exactly. I love that. That is so awesome. I'm so glad you're here, Marie. So how can people find you?
So, I'm everywhere, but my business name, my official business name is Business Be Active. So I created that a long time ago. My slogan is Be You, Be Social, Be Active, which was cute. Nice. That's how I got the name. But then I added Be Coached, which was sweet. Started adding like Be whatever, basically. It works out well branding wise. So businessbeactive.com is my website. Instagram and like anything else, my handle's biz, like BIZ. So it's biz Be Active on like anything there. Yeah, like people can just email me or find me on social. They can connect with me, with you. We're all hyper connected now. So if you want to find me, I'm pretty sure you'd be able to do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love, you gave really great advice, and I loved the whole being curious, just being open. That is, because there are so many possibilities, and then figuring out what you want to focus on. And we've talked about this too, is figuring out what you're really passionate about and what you're going to want to do for a long time, or for
I can't take full credit for the curiosity. I did see that it wasn't the Simon. I don't remember his last name.
Simon.
It was another. It wasn't. Yes. Okay. We both do like him. It wasn't him, but there was another speaker who spoke about curiosity, and he was relating it to relationships. Like if you're curious about a person, they're curious about you. Like that's what creates good relationship. But I kind of applied that into business, and if you're curious, then people are going to see like your authentic side. So
absolutely,
curiosity.
Yes,
for sure.
Thank you so much. So thank you for joining me today, and we will have this out soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the You Can Do It Too podcast. If you feel inspired or gain some insights, then please subscribe. If you're already subscribing, please rate and review it. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to get some more information about me and what I have to offer, go to my website, stepsteppick.com. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you next time.